You shared good news once, and something felt off the moment the words left your mouth. Not because anything bad was said, not because anyone walked away, but because the room got a little quieter. The energy shifted just slightly, and you walked home wondering why telling good news felt worse than keeping it secret. That feeling is not paranoia, it is pattern recognition. Here is what is actually happening beneath the surface. Some people around you are not competing with you directly. They gave that up. Now they are competing emotionally, socially, and psychologically in ways that are almost impossible to name out loud without sounding dramatic. Jealousy rarely announces itself. It does not arrive with a warning. It arrives dressed as advice, as concern, as sarcasm so light it almost disappears, as support with something cold folded inside. And here's the part that makes it so disorienting. The more grounded you become, the more creative the pressure gets. Because once someone realizes they cannot outwork you, outgrow you, or outshine you, they stop trying to win honestly. They start trying to lower the ceiling above your head, quietly, consistently, and always in ways they can deny. That is not a flaw in your perception. That is a documented psychological pattern. And once you understand how it actually works, their hold on your emotions collapses fast. But here is where it gets interesting. The first move is almost always the same. They act strangely unimpressed by things that clearly matter. You share something real, a raise, a finished project, a moment of personal progress, and their face does something strange, not hostile, just flat. Like the news was slightly inconvenient. They say congratulations, but it lands like a receipt, not a celebration. Real support feels warm somewhere in your chest. Jealous support feels cold in your spine. That difference is not imagined. It is your nervous system reading something your conscious mind has not fully processed yet. Because your progress does not inspire them first, it exposes them first. It holds up a mirror to the risks they avoided, the discipline they skipped, the decisions they keep putting off. And rather than sit with that discomfort internally, they externalize it through subtle deflation, through tiny corrections, through support that always arrives just 1 degree cooler than it should. This is what psychologists call displaced threat response. When someone cannot tolerate the gap between where they are and where you are going, they do not address their own gap. They try to shrink yours instead. Now here is what most people do not realize. These moves never look large in isolation. At work, they repeat your idea louder and act gracious for mentioning you. In private, they ask how you stay so disciplined, then mock your seriousness the following week. In groups, they interrupt your story at the exact moment people start leaning toward you. Over text, they take hours to reply, then expect instant warmth when it is convenient for them. None of those moves look like evidence on their own. And that is exactly why they work. Each one is deniable. Together, they form a clear and consistent pattern of hidden pressure. Jealous people survive on deniability, because deniability keeps you explaining yourself instead of protecting yourself. So here is your first practical shift. Stop explaining fast. Start naming behavior cleanly. When they minimize something real, try this. That matters to me. Short, clear, no elaboration. When a joke lands like a small cut, do not laugh to protect the mood. Say simply, explain that. Like you already know what happened. Because you do. Jealous people hate being pulled out of implication and into direct language. Implication is their safe zone. It lets them wound without carrying the weight. Direct language forces ownership, and ownership is exactly what insecure people avoid. Here is another layer, and this one usually surprises people. They become sudden experts on your flaws. Not because your flaws changed, but because your strengths became harder to deny. So they start reframing your confidence as arrogance, your standards as ego, your calm as attitude. And notice how quickly those labels appear after you stop needing their validation. Before that, you were convenient. Convenient people rarely trigger open envy. But once you become self-directed, less available, and harder to manage emotionally. Insecure people feel displaced. Your stillness exposes their noise. Your clarity exposes their chaos. Think about the last time you walked away from a conversation feeling smaller, even though nothing openly hostile was said. That drained feeling is not weakness. That is your nervous system reading concealed aggression before your mind has finished being polite about it. Trust that signal sooner. Now let me ask you something. Which of these three patterns do you recognize most? There are three types of people who respond to your growth this way. The first is the slow deflator. This is the person whose support always arrives slightly damaged. They are never openly negative. They just consistently find the one small thing wrong with your good news. They ask questions designed to make you doubt the timing. They offer alternatives that quietly suggest your choice was not quite right. They are not cruel. They are scared. And their fear leaks out through precision aimed at your confidence. The second is the silent competitor. This one goes quiet when you win. Not because they are processing, because they are repositioning. They disappear right when your life gets cleaner, when you are healthier, steadier, more focused, but let something fall apart and they reappear immediately. That is not compassion. That is appetite for a version of you they can manage. Your pain makes them feel safe. Your peace makes them feel exposed. The third is the borrowed blueprint. This one laughed at your routines, your boundaries, your standards, and then quietly started borrowing them. Same habits, same language, same approach, but they are still talking down to you while running your playbook. That contradiction is not coincidence. It is envy mixed with admiration and too much pride to admit it. They want your results without acknowledging that your process had value the whole time. Which one hit closest to home? Tell me in the comments. Now, before we go further, something worth saying clearly. Not every person who goes quiet after your good news is jealous. Not every critical comment is concealed resentment. Some people are genuinely distracted. Some are carrying their own weight silently. The difference is consistency. A pattern is louder than any single moment, and a pattern does not lie. But here is the part that most people never hear about. Once they realize emotional pressure is not working, the strategy shifts. They stop trying to lower your confidence directly. They start working on your reputation instead. Whispers to mutual people, casual repositioning of your image. They call you different, too much, arrogant, selfish, and they use the language of concern. They say it sadly, like they are worried about you. Listen carefully to those labels. Different often means harder to use. Too much often means your standards got expensive and their access lost its discount. Arrogant often means you stopped shrinking so that insecure people could feel comfortable around you. Their labels are not truth. They are pressure tactics dressed as observation. And here is what changes everything. Once you stop reading their behavior as personal and start reading it as mechanical, as a predictable response to feeling threatened, their power over your internal state collapses. You see the jealousy underneath the compliments, the fear underneath the criticism, the need for control underneath the concern. Their behavior stops being about your worth and starts being about their discomfort. Your discipline reminds them of their excuses. Your calm reminds them of their reactivity. Your boundaries remind them of how long they had easy access to your energy and how much they resent losing it. That means every uncomfortable move they make is actually a confirmation. Not of your arrogance, not of your flaws, of your value. You are not too much. You are just too clear for people who need you confused. You are not broken. You are not overreacting. You are reading a pattern that took years to learn how to hide, and once you see it, you cannot unsee it. Stop seeking warmth from people who feel threatened by your growth. Stop sharing plans with people who have a history of planting doubt right before your most important moments. Move quieter. Let results say what insecure people can never admit out loud. If this hit home for you, please subscribe. There is a lot more to explore about how your mind works. I will see you in the next one.